Hello, everyone. Today I wanted to make a video about the fact that really I have no friends at this point in my life. And that's not to say that I don't have people I know. That's not to say that I don't have acquaintances, but I really don't have anyone that I really connect with. And I've really only had a few good friends for my entire life. And they've been spread over my life. And my best friend passed away in a boating accident many years ago. And that was one of the worst days of my life. And there's never been anyone that could replace him. He understood me like nobody else could. But that's not what this video is about. But really, my whole life, I've had trouble making friends. And for a lot of years, I really thought it was my fault. I thought I was some kind of weirdo or something. And I always had guilt for enjoying the things that I enjoyed. Really, I always had guilt just for being me. And I thought I was inferior to other people. And society is set up to make you feel guilty for not having a lot of friends or for not being really social. And really, the world is set up for extroverts. It's set up for people who gain energy by going out socially all the time. Even though about a third to a half of the population is introverted, the world is just set up for extroverts. And I guess that saying, the squeaky wheel gets the grease or the loudest voices get their way, most of the time, I guess that's true because that's the way the world's set up. But anyway, I used to think that I needed to change myself to fit in with all this, to make myself more extroverted. But it never worked. And it just made me miserable. And over the years, I found out that I was an introvert, that that's who I was, and that was okay. And it was okay that I liked what others might consider to be a boring life. I like to be home. I like to think. I like to know why things are like they are. And I finally understood that it was okay if I didn't have a lot of friends. And when I figured out that it was okay that I don't have a lot of friends, that I don't have this big social circle, that was such a huge breakthrough for me because it took away all the guilt that I was feeling for staying home or for liking the things I liked. And I figured out there's nothing wrong with me. And just think of that statement, there's nothing wrong with me. When you know that, it makes things so much better. And I realized that I was being rejected a lot of times for something that was actually a good thing, for being a deep thinker, for being a critical thinker, for caring about other people. And I guess the reason I wanted to make this video is because I hope that you can realize this too. I hope that you can realize that a lack of friends doesn't mean that something's wrong with you. It probably actually means something's right with you, especially in today's day and age. One thing to remember, I think, is that we don't need to settle for shallow friends as introverts. We want deep friendships. We want someone that we can trust and someone that we can share our real feelings with. And if we don't have that, then we don't have a deep connection. And if we don't have a deep connection, then we really don't have a friend. But I also want to discuss in this video some of the reasons that I think people have fewer deep friendships now in today's modern age. And you can let me know in the comments if you agree with this. The first one is technology. We talked about this a little bit in my last video, but technology is separating people and it's keeping us more distant from one another. Everybody's just looking at their phone. And these phones and this social media is giving people a sense of connection. But as a result, there aren't nearly as many real deep connections anymore. And as introverts, those deep connections, that's what we need. It's almost like fuel for us to have deep connections. We thrive on them. So what ends up happening is a person out there, they will end up with, 500 social media friends, but those are not real deep friends. They're shallow. And that leads me to my next point, which is that most people out there, especially extroverted people, they can get by with shallow connections in their life. And that leaves people like us who want deep connections, it pretty much leaves us out in the cold. So if you enjoy these kind of deep conversations, you're really in trouble in our modern culture. We think about things like ball games and politics and the weather. It seems like that's all these extroverted people want to talk about. And it's so weird because it seems to satisfy most of these people. That's enough for them. Talking about humanity, talking about the state of the world. Nobody wants to talk about that stuff. They stay at small talk. And I'm an introvert. I don't particularly like small talk, but I do understand that small talk is necessary. But I just feel like small talk should lead into deeper talk over time. So if you imagine the ocean and you step into the ocean, it's very shallow. And then you can walk out into the deeper water. To most introverts, that's what it feels like it should be with small talk. You start small, but then you get to know somebody and you go deeper. But that seems to just be missing in today's world. And I think that's why people who think deep, we gravitate back to places like YouTube and other places online because that's the only place that we can find deep conversation. We never see it in our daily lives. And it's the only place to find others that think like we do. And I think we should all realize as introverts that that's not our fault. It's just the state of things in our culture right now. I also wanted to discuss the fact that I've found throughout my whole life that being alone is much better than being with people who don't understand you. And there's a quote that I want to read to you. It's by Henry Rollins. And he says, "Yes, I guess you could say I'm a loner, but I feel more lonely in a crowded room with boring people than I feel on my own." And I completely agree with this. The fact that you don't have a lot of friends simply does not mean that there's something wrong with you. It's not because you're unlovable. It's not because you need to change. And it's certainly not because you need to try and become an extrovert like I used to think it was. If someone rejects you, if someone doesn't like you, that's their problem. It's not yours. You just be kind. If they don't like you, don't worry about it. There's a lot of people out there. But it's worth it to keep your eyes open because, if you find one person that truly connects with you, it's worth 10 people that don't get you or 10,000 friends on social media, really, to just find that one person that connects with you. Now, I also wanted to talk about being complete while being alone. There's a quote by Mandy Hale, and it says, "Until you get comfortable with being alone, you'll never know if you're choosing someone out of love or loneliness." And I think that's so important. We need to be comfortable with being alone. And that leads me to another thought. I said you're not for everybody as an introvert and a deep thinker. Well, everybody's not for you either. So if you don't connect with a person, then that person isn't for you. And just like other people have that right, you have that right to say, this person is shallow. This person just doesn't connect with me. and I don't have to be around this person if I don't want to. Because you should always feel better after you hang out with someone, not worse. So if you want to know if a relationship is good, just look at that. Do you feel better after you hang out with somebody, or do you feel worse? There's a lot of times in my life that I would go places or I would be with people, and when I came home, I'd just feel bad. I'd feel worse. I'd feel drained, and not in the introvert's way, because we pretty much can go anywhere and get drained and be tired. But we know when it was a good thing and worthwhile, and we know when it was something that we didn't like or a person that we didn't connect with. And it should never be the case that you say, boy, I didn't connect with that person. I didn't like being at that place. And that should just never be the case. Those are the things you have to cut out and the people that you need to cut out of your life. Because as introverts, we only have so much energy to give. And that energy is so precious. So never waste that energy on people who don't deserve it. So these are the things that I've learned about not having friends. And I've finally been able to push back that little insecure kid who always felt like he wasn't good enough. And I've come to realize that I'm worthy of being a friend to someone, and I'm worthy of having friends. But at the same time, I'm also worthy of being alone and being here at the house and enjoying the things I enjoy, and really of being a friend to myself. And that means there are chapters of my life where I have no friends, like right now. There may be those chapters, and I'm fine with that. And I'm content within myself. And if there are future chapters where friendship comes back into my life, then that's great too. But I'm not going to let either of those circumstances, either of those things, determine the way I feel about myself or determine my level of happiness. Anyway, I hope this video helped you. And if you want to hear my thoughts on how people out there have, well, kind of changed, watch this video next.